Hey guys, this is Ponce on the PBE, and I'm here to show you guys a preview of a massive reworking of a crap ton of AP items. So, normally how I put those the numbers up above my head here, there are actually too many of them to fit on the screen properly. So what I've done is I've put in the description below a link to my website, which has basically all the text. So if you want to follow along exactly what I'm talking about while I'm showing it off, you can go down there, click on that, open a window, put it to the side or something. But yeah, let's just go over, for the most part, alphabetically. I'm going to start with a couple of base items because it's just, we can work off that easier. But yeah, so by base items, I mean stuff like Blasting Wand. So just to start with that, Blasting Wand, this is a very basic change. The cost has been lowered from 860 to 850. I guess Riot just likes working with, easy to work with numbers like that. Next, needlessly large rod. That's actually changed quite a bit compared to a Blasting One. Blasting One just got a price reduction, a very slight one. This one has actually gotten a major price reduction, but its AP has also been lowered. So it's gone from 1,600 AP or gold down to 1,250, and the AP has been lowered from 80 to 60. So it's more of a kind of an intermediate item. I know always, when I play people who build needlessly large rod, it's always like this huge jump, and it's a major pain in the ass to build all the time. So yeah, that makes things just kind of easier to build into items, I suppose. Belcos, shut up. Next, okay, Archangel Staff, or Archangel Staff. So yeah, that's been changed so that the cost has increased. The total cost has gone from 2,700 gold to 3,000 gold, but it's got a new recipe, builds from Tear of the Goddess, and the nude needlessly large rod. And the AP, total AP has increased from 60 to 80, so the Archangel Staff has increased. And of course the subsequent Seraph's Embrace has also gone up in terms of AP. It's gone from 60 to 80. Next, let's go to Athene's Unholy Grail. So that's changed a fair amount as well. It's got a new recipe. It's got builds from the book, chalice, and a tome, codex and a tome, if you will. So that one's rather basic. Not too much has changed aside from just what it builds out of there. Next we go to Haunting Guys. So Haunting Guys, it's really not worth mentioning, but it's gone from 1,500 gold to 1,480. Leandry's is the one that's changed a bit more. The total cost is increased by 100, so it's gone from 2,900 to 3,000. And it's got a new recipe, so builds out of Haunting Guys plus a Blasting Wand. And the total AP has increased. It's gone from 50 to 80. Alright, next let's move on to Ludens Echo. So as you can see here, Ludens Echo, the price has been lowered from 3,100 to 3,000 gold, but the AP has been lowered to 100 from 120, so it's no longer that 120 AP tier kind of item. However, to sort of compensate, I suppose the movement speed has increased from 7% to 10%. All right. So moving on, next we have Morellonomicons. Morellonomicons, that has changed so that there's a new recipe. It builds out of Codex, Idol, and a Toad. Nashor's Tooth. Now this isn't like strictly an AP item, but it's also one of the things that's been sort of adjusted. Nashor's Tooth. Nashor's Tooth. That cost has been increased from 2,920, that kind of weird number there, to an even 3,000. Attack speed has actually been lowered, so it's now down to a 40 from 50%. But the AP has increased from 60 to 80, so moving more towards kind of an AP heavy item, I suppose. Also, the thing is going to disconnect me, so let's move Belcos. Alright. Let's move on here and take a look at what's next. Deathcap. Rylands Deathcap. Got my notes on the other page here because there's just so many of these items. So yeah, Deathcap is quite a bit different. The cost has increased from 3,300 to 3,500, but it's got a new recipe: Blasting Wand, Needlessly Large Rod, and Amp Tome. And the passive portion of it has actually been buffed. It used to be 30% AP. Now in the public test realm, it's 30% or 35% bonus AP. Alright, let's move on to Rod of Aegis. Now this one's actually kind of interesting here. They've buffed this item, sort of buffed it anyway. The total cost has been lowered from 2,800 to 2,700. as you can see right there. The HP has actually been lowered a bit. It's gone from 450 HP to 300, so it's less about kind of being a tanky item. However, they've changed how much mana and AP you get per stack. So the mana per stack has increased from 20. So, every minute you get 20, 20, 28 mana like that. Now you get 40 mana, 40 mana, 40 mana like that per stack, which means the total amount of mana you get actually is doubled to 400. So that's a hell of a lot of mana on one item. And the AP per stack has also doubled. It's gone from 2 to 4, which means at the max amount of stacks at 10 minutes you have 40 extra AP, totaling to 100 HP on Rod of Ages. So that's kind of impressive there. All right. Next we have Rylands Crystal Scepter. Rylands. So Rylands is also changed in that it's got a new recipe. You need to see large rod, the amp tome, and the giant's belt. Cost is also increased as a result to 3,000 gold from 2,900. And the whole slowing thing has been changed quite a bit. The slow has, or single target is now 40%. For 1.5 seconds. The AoE version of the slow is 40% for 1 second, and the DOT and multi-hit is now 20% for 1 second. So there's this new thing called for summon minions, so I imagine that probably applies to stuff like Tibbers and York ghouls and stuff like that. So that those things will now apply 20% reduction for 1 second. Now, in terms of what else that includes, I'm not entirely sure, would that include Heimer turrets, stuff like that? I don't really know. It probably would, but in any case, moving on, let's do the Zhonya's Hourglass next. So that's received a kind of, a sort of a nerf. The cost has been lowered, obviously, since it gives less AP here. But it went from 3,300 gold to 3,000 gold, but the AP has been lowered by 20, now that Need to See the Large Rod isn't, as good. It's just cheaper. Okay, so the last one here, Will the Ancients. This one has gone through a rather unusual change. It no longer gives spell vamp. Instead, what it does is it gives pre-mitigation spell vamp, essentially. So as it reads, your spells and abilities heal you for 15% of the damage dealt, calculated before your target's resistances. This effect is reduced to 1/3 for AoE effects. So yeah, it's not spell vamp. It's like you guys probably never heard of this because it was only in the public test room very briefly, but old Blade of the Rune King, when it was first introduced into the game, before it hit live, it was very briefly like this pre-mitigation heal it would do on yourself. So it was almost like a reverse on-hit effect kind of thing. And it was deemed horrendously overpowered, and that never made it, even out of the public test room. It was patched out quite quickly. So yeah, it now has kind of a version of that, and it's reduced, just like Spell Vamp, to 1/3 its effectiveness for AoE spells. So that's kind of an interesting thing there. So yeah, basically, unless you have massive amounts of magic penetration, or if the person has no magic resistance at all or something, this is essentially a buff. Like basically, you can hit targets with tons of magic resistance, and you're going to get 15% of the damage you deal back as health. So there you have it there. Those are some rather large changes. It seems to be more sort of just kind of equalizing everything and getting the upper tier AP items on a similar kind of page in terms of how much AP they give you. Now, I'm not a mid lane AP player at all. Basically, the only champion I ever really play is Vel'Koz because I find him funny. I'm more sort of a bruiser player, so I'm not the most qualified person in the world to be talking about this stuff. But I've given you guys the numbers if you want to take a look at them. We're coming towards the end of this patch cycle. I don't know if this is supposed to actually hit during the Tam Kench patch or not, in terms of live. There may be riot posts on that or not. I'm not sure. But like I said, just go to the description below. You can check out these numbers for yourself. I compare them to old numbers where possible. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully you found that somewhat informative. Generally speaking, these changes seem to make sense to me, but just kind of overall, I don't know, people who actually play AP mid laners probably can get more excited about this than I can. Anyway, I'll see you guys around, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.